In this lecture, we are going to begin recreating the header with WordPress's blocks. Let's look at the header on the front end. I've zoomed in for a better view of the header. The best way to recreate an entire section is to break the section into smaller pieces. Let's try that together. Our header should be grouped. This way, we can move the header around. Luckily, we're already doing this with the template part. Breaking it down further, we have 3 rows. The first row contains a menu and paragraph. The second row contains the logo, search form, and login link. The last row contains another navigation menu. In total, we're going to have around 10 blocks. That's just an estimate. We won't know until we create the blocks. To get started, we are going to start from the top and work our way down. Let's recreate the row of blocks. Switch over to the full site editor. From the site editor, we're going to work on the header template part. The other blocks are in the way. Luckily, by using template parts, we can tell the editor to focus on a specific template part. Let's click on the logo. This will open a sidebar. On the sidebar, click Template Parts. Lastly, select the header template part. By focusing on the template part, we can focus on the header's blocks without the clutter of the other blocks on the page. That's going to make development easier. The next step is to begin adding blocks. As discussed before, we can consider the top bar a row of blocks. Therefore, we can use the row block. Let's add the row block to the top of the template. This block will act as the overall container for the top bar. The next step will depend on your answer to the next question. Does the container need classes or styles? If so, you will need to modify the block. Let's look at the HTML block. For your convenience, I've added HTML comments for you to find sections easily. The top bar element is the root div element. Unfortunately, we don't have the benefit of syntax highlighting. To make things easier, here's an overview of the top bar. On this element, we're going to find 3 classes called py3, text_sm, and bg_gray700. The py3 class will apply padding to the top and bottom of the element. The text_sm class will lower the font size. Lastly, the bg_gray700 class will change the background color. Seems simple so far. However, as developers, we need to make an important decision. Do we use classes for styling a block, or should we use a block settings? In my opinion, either solution is valid. There is no wrong answer. There are advantages and disadvantages to each solution. Let's take a moment to weigh the pros and cons. If you decide to use classes, it's going to be faster than configuring the block settings. It's as simple as applying a class to a block, whereas block settings will be a lot of tweaking. On the other hand, it will be harder for clients to customize a block's appearance. They will need knowledge of HTML and CSS, whereas tweaking a block settings will be easier with the Gutenberg editor. Lastly, block settings are limited. Not every CSS property is adjustable through the block editor. In these classes, you will need to fall back to CSS classes. For our theme, we're going to configure the properties through the block settings. I prefer to give my clients as much control as possible. It'll be easier for clients to modify a block's appearance through Gutenberg. At the end of the day, it's entirely up to you. In the full site editor, let's change the background color of the row block. From the color selection, select the Udemy Gray 700 color. This is the same color as the color for the original top bar. Next, let's change the typography settings. We're going to customize the font size to 0.875 rem. Be sure to change the unit. The default is px. Afterward, let's change the line height. This setting may be hidden. You should be able to toggle its appearance under the Panels menu. Once you've added it to the settings, set the line height to 1.25. By the way, these are the exact same values as the values in the CSS classes. All we're doing is transferring them from the static templates to the block. The last setting is the padding. By default, padding is applied to all sides. Let's unlock the padding to define settings for each side. The top and bottom sides will be set to 0.75 rem. The left and right sides will be set to 0. Once again, be sure to use REM as your unit. The default unit was px. We're finished. Our block should be ready to go. Let's save our changes. For extra assurance, let's try viewing the home page on the front end. A gray bar will appear above the current header. It seems like the top bar has spacing issues, but that isn't the case. We're currently loading 2 copies of the top bar. We've successfully recreated the top bar. The next step is to start adding the inner blocks to the bar. Throughout this section, we're going to follow a basic process. First, we're going to add a block. This block should be suitable for the UI element we're trying to recreate. Second, we're going to apply styles through the block's settings. Lastly, we will add classes for styles that can't be applied through a block settings. In the next lecture, let's begin working on the container for the block.